So I guess we'll say, this is Louis Briel, and did I say that right?
Briel.
Briel.
Just one second.
Briel. Okay.
Briel.
And he's going to tell us about his artwork. So I guess, when did you first get into painting or art in general?
Well, it's really been a calling rather than a profession because I was an only child and I grew up kind of lonely. And so I started very early using art to deal with loneliness. And one of the first paintings I did when I was 13 was of the little sister I didn't have. And so I found this little girl in a McCall's magazine. I don't guess they make McCall's anymore. It was a women's magazine that my mother subscribed to. And I found this little girl, a picture of her in there that I thought looked like might be my sister. So I painted it in oils and gave the painting to my mother, and we framed her and hung her in the living room. And so it's really been, that's the way it started.
So you've always done portraiture or painting?
Always done people, yeah. I mean, occasionally I'll do a landscape, or I'll do a landscape in the back of a portrait, behind a portrait in the background. But that's really my calling, is to paint people.
So I guess that's why you chose painting as your medium, is because that's what you started out doing, or have you tried like other mediums?
Well, I guess I drew before I painted. I actually got paint by numbers kits before I ever really painted with oils. And then after I started painting with oil paint, I found out that I was allergic to oil paint. So I switched to acrylics about 30 years ago.
So you paint with acrylics?
I paint with acrylics now. Everything in this brochure is acrylic.
Really? That's impressive.
Only my first paintings in my first 10 years are oil.
Because I painted with acrylic, and then I was like, I feel like this is maybe the kindergarten version, and then oil is like what you upgrade to, and everyone's like, no, and I was like, so that makes me feel really good that that's acrylic.
Well, oil paint has a kind of sensual quality that acrylic doesn't have. Actually, I like acrylic better. It's actually more permanent because it's not such a, if you see paintings that are 300 or 400 years old, you'll see cracks in the paint and all that, because that's water damage and humidity and the canvas expanding and contracting over years. And acrylic doesn't have that problem because it's essentially a plastic binder. So it's not damaged by water or moisture, and it will stretch and contract with the canvas.
That's really good to know.
So in some senses, it's probably a more permanent paint. Also, it matches my temperament because with oil paint, I tended to overblend and mix colors too much. Acrylic dries quickly and allows me to keep colors pure because of the quick drying quality.
That's really good. So what kind of artists do you that inspire you, or you look up to, or?
Well, the first artist that I really noticed as a teenager and in college were Renaissance portraitists, such as Raphael and Leonardo and Bronzino, who was a mannerist, and Parmigianino, who was a mannerist, Holbein, who was a northern Germanic painter. Because the people that they painted looked so real and so, much more real than a photograph. It had more dimensionality, and it just and I would look at these pictures of people who had lived 300 or 400 years ago, and I would say, I wonder what that guy was like, or I wonder what she was like, or I wonder if she really looked like this for painting, and I wonder how long she had to sit for him. So it was, I sort of got into the time and into their lives, and it really interested me. So they were the first painters, and then I like John Singer Sargent, who was a portrait painter around the turn of the last century, around 1900. And a current favorite of mine is he's slightly older than I am. He's an English artist named David Hockney, who moved from England to California about 30 years ago, and has mostly lived in Los Angeles. And back in the 70s and 80s, my work took on kind of a pop look with bright, flat color backgrounds. And when I discovered Hockney, he was doing work actually before I was. It was very similar to it, so I found this kinship with him.
So how do people normally contact you? you are usually hired to paint
I make,
others, or
well, I've always painted friends and family, and sometimes I invent friends that I don't have just because I'll like someone's work. Sometimes I'll find a little black and white photograph, say, in a magazine, and I'll turn it into a painting and sort of create an imaginary story, an imaginary biography. I mean, again, it's the lonely kid making up friends to keep him company. I mean, you don't need to feel sorry for me, but it's just kind of the way my life journey has worked. But as far as making a living, I found very early on that commission portraiture pays pretty well. I mean, I can sell maybe an off-the-rack painting for $1,000, or I can get $10,000 for a similar painting if someone commissions it. Because if they like my work, the only place they could get it is from me. If they don't like it, then they don't call me. But so it's free to get referrals from galleries, but it's mostly word of mouth and building up a reputation over time. Also, publicity really helps. Like back it's in this brochure, I got a chance to paint Arthur Ashe, Tennessee Road, and then this went to the National Portrait Gallery.
so it got you a lot of
It got me a lot of press in the Richmond paper, and I had really 3 or 4 solid years of business just from this painting, and from the sort of celebrity cachet that I got from being associated with painting Arthur Ashe and it going to the portrait gallery.
Well, how do you determine like composition or what you're going to include in the background or props? Because I see he has his, tennis
Well,
racket
it's
on his
interesting
table.
how that happened, because we had made an agreement. This painting was done in cooperation with Virginia Heroes. It was a mentorship organization, still exists, that he founded here in Richmond to help at-risk kids in public schools. So anyway, it was all set that he was going to come to my studio. He was going to get an award from the Conference of Christians and Jews, and a leadership award that night. He came to my studio dressed in a coat and tie. I had intended to do something more casual. So when he walked in a coat and tie, he said, "Well, do you want me to keep the coat on?" I said, "No, take that off." And suddenly I realized that in that part of his life, he was doing a lot of lectures, and he was sort of a spokesman not only for civil rights, but for he had already announced that he had gotten AIDS from a blood transfusion, the HIV virus. So he was very proactive in that sense. So he was kind of a goodwill ambassador in his life at that point, no longer a tennis star. And I realized that the coat and tie, or the tie, was sort of symbolic of that part of his life. And we ended up posing with the tennis racket. And this pose just happened very naturally. At one point, as we were conversing.
Do you mind if we show your work?
No,
for a
no,
minute?
please. He turned the tennis racket down and leaned on it, and I realized that was the perfect image of Arthur Ashe right there. It was like squared up, it was straight on, it was a gentleman leaning on his tennis past. So that, lots of times there are intuitive things. This one of Congressman Bliley was more planned. This was to go into a congressional committee room where he was the chairman of the Commerce Committee. And there are lots, if you look at all the portraits that are in that room, lots of them have the flag, they have the Capitol, they have columns. And so this one was sort of staged. He was an advocate for tobacco companies here in Richmond, so he's holding his pipe. It's hard to see, but he's holding a pipe. There's always a story that goes along with the painting. What actually happens is when people commission me, there's a point to it. It's to commemorate a point in their life when they're either retiring. In Bliley's case, it was because he was chairman of this committee. This was a posthumous portrait for a college to honor a professor who had died. I knew him as a professor. I knew him as a lecturer. So that's the story I told, is him at his lectern turning to the viewer to sort of say, "I'm giving a lecture. How dare you interrupt me?" That's part of the story.